Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us for CalRecycle's August public meeting. I'm Maria West, Communications Director for CalRecycle. Today's live update is designed to serve Californians with accessible, plain language information about CalRecycle programs, actions, and priorities. We welcome your feedback as we continue to improve our public meetings. A quick reminder, you can submit a public comment on an agenda item in two ways. If you're here in person, you can use one of our meeting room microphones. If you're joining us remotely, you can submit a comment using the public comments portal. Just go to CalRecycle's homepage and click on the public meeting web banner at the top of our site. There you'll also find a link to today's agenda, the presentation slides, and our live webcast. We'll address public comments a little later. Our first agenda item today is the director's report. Director Rachel Mackey Wagner joins us now with some important updates. Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning and welcome, everyone, and thank you for those of you who have joined us in person and those of you who are joining us remotely. Again, it's really a pleasure to be with all of you today and to have the opportunity to provide this hybrid public meeting. And we look forward to presenting the progress that we're making on some of the key programs that we're implementing here at CalRecycle. But first and foremost, I'd like to introduce and make announcements about some of our executive staff. The governor appointed last month Erin Rodriguez as our new legislative deputy for CalRecycle, and she has been on board for a little over a month, and it may feel a little bit longer to her as it has been a very busy June, July, and beginning of August. But really want to welcome Erin and hope that those of you who interact on the legislative space have had an opportunity to interact with her. If not, please do reach out to her and introduce yourself. Secondly, I wanted to make an announcement that our esteemed Zoe Heller, who has been with the department for a little over 5 years, has taken on the role as the Deputy Director for our Materials Management and Local Assistance Division. She is bringing all of her many years of experience and talent and skill to helping lead many of our EPR programs, our implementation of our organics recycling, as well as implementation of our new statute around SB 54 and plastics recycling. So we are so very, very excited and grateful for Zoe to lend her talents there. And finally, I just want to highlight, you will hear an update from Tina Walker today on our debris removal efforts this year. But I wanted to highlight that today because as we are finishing up our operation, which is an all-time record in terms of how quickly we have finished our debris removal operation, I really want to extend a huge amount of gratitude to that team, to our partners at OES and CalEPA for a successful close of this 2021 operation. We are nearly done. We have some of those rural cabins that we're still working on, but very proud of CalRecycle team on this and the entire state team for how we've been able to implement that program. But just a real reminder on how important that program is and what it means when our communities are devastated by a natural disaster like a fire, and the important role that the state has played and continues to play in helping in that recovery, and even further highlights the important role that we have in fighting climate change. So just again, a huge thank you to the CalRecycle team, the CalOES team, and that partnership for finishing that operation. And unfortunately, we are heading into fire season and already working on some pretty major events across the state. So with that, Maria, I think I will turn it back to you. Thanks again.
Thanks so much, Rachel. Next on the agenda is Wildfire Recovery, as Rachel was just talking about. The Deputy Director, Tina Walker, over our debris removal program, is here to share details on the wrap-up of the 2021 operations and preparations that are underway in response to 2022 wildfires. Good morning, Tina.
Good morning, Maria. Disaster debris, including structural debris, hazard trees, and contaminated soils, has been removed from all private properties impacted by last year's fire siege. These parcels have been returned to their counties for permitting and redevelopment. On this operation, 860 million pounds of debris has been removed, and 134 million pounds of metal and concrete were designated for recycling. While wrapping up property debris removal last June, CalRecycle was tasked with removing the remains of 169 private cabins destroyed by the Caldor fire on U.S. Forest Service property. Active operations began in July, and so far, over 40% of the cabins have been cleared. Completion of this program is targeted for mid-October. Here's a short video on how CalRecycle's structural debris removal program builds a path for recovery.
Catastrophic wildfires destroy homes, decimate communities, and endanger our neighborhoods with toxins like asbestos, lead, and arsenic. Removing toxic debris is the critical first step for survivors to rebuild their lives and livelihoods. Since 2007, more than 23,000 wildfire survivors trusted California to safely clean up their properties and make their communities a place they want to rebuild. After the flames are extinguished, survivors have enough to worry about: replacing belongings, dealing with paperwork, finding a place to stay, and also grieving. And many are underinsured, if insured at all. With no out-of-pocket cost to survivors, the state-managed program does far more than the average contractor to help communities recover. California protects families and neighborhoods through the process, ensuring soil that will once again be home to vegetable gardens and swing sets is safe enough for kids to play on, keeping toxins from running into waterways and groundwater, preventing dangerous debris from becoming airborne even as it's transported to end-use facilities, and in coordination with local officials, tracking each load of debris to reduce traffic and make sure the debris goes safely where it's supposed to go. Every step along the way is managed with state and federal oversight and fully documented to ensure accountability and verify safety for all, giving survivors the confidence to move forward with the rebuilding process. With so many challenges ahead for wildfire survivors, the government-funded debris removal program offers a safe, fast, and no-cost option to help families recover and rebuild.
The Disaster Debris Removal and Recovery Office has officially stood up its field operations section to focus on operational supervision, tactics, and planning as members of our incident management teams. This is another way we're preparing for improved efficiencies on upcoming wildfire recovery operations. And as announced in previous videos, CalRecycle has collaborated with the Department of General Services on a master services agreement for assessment and monitoring services. This agreement is available to all state and local governments, not just CalRecycle. Additionally, CalRecycle has developed a pre-qualified list of debris removal contractors, shortening the time it will take to award contractors and mobilize crews to the field. And like most Californians, we're monitoring the current fire season. We've joined Cal OES in providing technical support to Mariposa County following the impacts of the Oak Fire. And with state guidance, Mariposa will be positioned to manage debris removal operations. And we hope to see them take advantage of that master services agreement. Thank you, Maria.
Thanks, Tina. Next on the agenda is $8.8 million in new grant awards to support local governments with SB 1383 implementation costs. The second round of SB 1383 local assistant grants are part of California's $270 million investment in the circular economy. The budget investment includes funding for new organics facilities, green business loans, co-digestion projects, and local grants for food recovery and community composting. Deputy Director Zoe Heller joins us now with the latest awards. Good morning, Zoe.
Good morning, Maria. California's last two budgets included $375 million for implementation of local organics recycling and food rescue programs. Today, we're going to announce the second round of SB 1383 local assistance grants to help communities implement their programs. Earlier this summer, CalRecycle approved the round one grantees. We approved the second round of SB 1383 local assistance grantees on August 12th. The awardees demonstrated their progress in local SB 1383 program implementation by adopting enforceable ordinances. In the next month or so, checks totaling $8.8 million will go out to 62 cities and counties to help them cut landfill emissions by feeding hungry neighbors, recycling organics into new products, and creating infrastructure to meet local requirements. Key projects include the purchase of curbside bins, education and outreach materials, record keeping, procurement programs, and local administration costs. Next, we'd like to revisit the eligibility and scoring criteria for the next round of community composting and green space grants. The $5 million in circular economy investments will support small-scale composting, particularly in priority communities. I really appreciate the input from stakeholders who shared their public comments in June, which included discussion about a regional approach and the equity of having funds equally divided between regions. Based on that feedback and other feedback that we received, staff proposed the following changes to the eligibility, scoring criteria, and evaluation process. So what we've done differently is each region is provided now a base amount of $300,000. So this is different than the equal distribution that we had talked about before. We used EnviroScreen to identify the concentration of disadvantaged communities in each one of these regions and increase the funding allocation to align with that increase in disadvantaged communities per CalEnviroScreen. CalRecycle also clarified scoring points for jobs based on full-time equivalency positions with benefits, and you can read more about the changes to data collection requirements and eligibility. You can just click on our public notice for this item, and it's linked in our agenda. The application period will open later this month, and all those changes will be reflected. Staff proposed a separate $510,000 grant solicitation for qualifying tribal entities, and we'll have more information on that program soon. Today, we're also announcing a grant award to 59 local enforcement agencies to help carry out solid waste facility permit and inspection programs. LEAs are certified by CalRecycle to act on the state's behalf to enforce laws and regulations related to solid waste handling and disposal. A core function of the LEA is to ensure the operation and closure of solid waste facilities are meeting state standards and responding to public complaints about regulated facilities and operations. LEAs are among the first to engage whenever an operator seeks a new, revised, or modified solid waste facility permit. LEAs are also responsible for performing routine inspections of every active, inactive, closing, and closed solid waste facility and operation in their jurisdiction. CalRecycle is awarding $1.4 million to 59 LEAs. Each applicant receives a base grant of $15,000 plus an additional amount determined by the population of the LEA's jurisdiction and the number of active and permitted solid waste facilities located within that jurisdiction. Two applicants, San Diego and Imperial counties, provide services to the border region. 16 local projects will receive $1.25 million in funding to clear illegally dumped tires from public right-of-ways. The Waste Tire Cleanup Grant awards include 2 tribes and 6 projects in disadvantaged communities. There were 7 more eligible project applications, and staff recommends that they be awarded if additional funding becomes available. California recycled 454 billion bottles and cans since the Beverage Container Recycling and Litter Reduction Act passed. Check out this short video on how communities, tribes, schools, and nonprofits can get funding to help keep more beverage containers off the streets and out of our landfills.
More Californians are turning to water refill stations to quench their thirst and cut plastic waste.
Recycling is good, but if we can prevent the need for it, it's even better.
And CalRecycle grants can help cover the cost.
We went right after this grant because we saw the value in it. The life cycle of a water bottle is a very resource-heavy, carbon emission-heavy process, from the extraction of the oil, creation of the plastic, the creation of the plastic water bottle, filling of the water bottle, transportation of the water bottle. You buy it at the store, bring it home. Now you have the water bottle to recycle. But what if we didn't have to go through that whole life cycle to begin with?
With $1.5 million available each year, California cities, counties, schools, nonprofits, and tribes can reduce plastic pollution and save cash with state-funded water refill stations.
There's so many benefits of having access to water in public places. People will stay longer, exercise longer.
In Humboldt County, Eureka residents can ditch single-use disposables for reusable water bottles with 15 grant-funded refill stations at public parks and recreation areas.
As filling a reusable water bottle becomes more convenient than spending the money on the plastic water bottles, it's going to justify even more for people to bring their water bottle because they see that there.
Check out CalRecycle's funding page to see which types of projects are eligible for grants.
Water refill stations are just one eligible project type under CalRecycle's Beverage Container Recycling Grant. The program supports beverage container recycling and litter abatement projects run by local governments, special districts, schools and colleges, nonprofits, joint powers authorities, and qualifying tribal entities. For this grant cycle, staff recommends adding scoring criteria points for disadvantaged communities and/or tribal entities with letters of support. Staff recommend continuing to prioritize disadvantaged communities, tribal entities, and litter cleanup projects in the border region. Staff also proposes increasing maximum grant awards from $250,000 to $275,000 due to increased infrastructure costs. $3 million is available for this upcoming grant cycle as CalRecycle combines appropriations from this and the next fiscal year. Back over to Maria.
Thanks, Zoe. CalRecycle published its latest quarterly updates on the beverage container recycling program, including certifications, registrations, and enforcement activities. Go to calrecycle.ca.gov and click on the public meeting banner at the top of our homepage for a link to today's agenda and the public notice for the beverage container recycling program updates. Next on the agenda, more Californians now have convenient options to safely discard medical waste. Check out how a new extended producer responsibility program for pharmaceutical and home-generated sharps waste helps Californians and our environment.
Prescription drugs and home-use needles, syringes, and lancets save lives, but too often improper storage and disposal of these sharps and pharmaceuticals cause overdose deaths.
Thousands of Californians die from overdoses each year.
Accidental poisonings.
Children and teenagers get into medicine cabinets where people often stockpile old prescriptions.
Needle stick injuries.
Sanitation workers can be exposed to infectious diseases when they get stuck with needles that were improperly disposed.
And contaminated water.
Wastewater treatment plants are not equipped to process medications that are flushed down the toilet.
To save lives and safeguard our precious water, California-made manufacturers responsible for safely managing their products once Californians are done using them.
The 2018 law requires industry to establish, fund, and operate stewardship programs.
With programs in place, Californians will start seeing more collection bins like these at their local pharmacies, hospitals, and other secure public spaces. These bins, along with prepaid mailback options for unused drugs and home-generated sharps, give consumers safe and convenient options to properly discard their medical waste.
If disposal isn't convenient and free and accessible to people, then they may not know how to properly dispose of unused medications or sharps waste.
Strict state oversight ensures industry programs, budgets, and outreach meet California's new requirements.
California was the first state in the nation to pass a stewardship law for both pharmaceuticals and home-generated sharps waste.
A statewide solution complementing a patchwork of local programs to protect our children, safeguard our workers, and keep our water safe to drink by giving consumers safe, free, and convenient ways to discard sharps and pharmaceuticals.
Now we will turn back to Deputy Director Zoe Heller with new information on the newest stewardship programs to take effect in California.
Thanks, Maria. 5 covered drug and home-generated sharps waste stewardship plans have been submitted to CalRecycle. To date, 1 has been approved, 2 are conditionally approved and will be resubmitted to CalRecycle soon, and 2 revised plans are under review by CalRecycle and are presented today for the director's consideration. The Drug Take-Back Solutions Foundation is a stewardship organization that represents 25 covered entities under its drugs plan and 2 covered entities under its sharps plan. The foundation submitted covered drugs and home-generated sharps waste stewardship plans to CalRecycle on November 19th, 2021. CalRecycle conditionally approved the plans on February 16th and February 14th, 2022, respectively, and the foundation submitted its revised plans to CalRecycle on May 17th, 2022. Staff reviewed the foundation's revised plans to ensure they met all of the conditions in the February 2022 request for approval, and based on that analysis, staff found that the foundation's revised drugs and sharps plans did not yet meet all of the conditions in the February 2022 request for approval. Staff recommended that the foundation's drugs and sharps stewardship plans remain conditionally approved, contingent upon the foundation revising and resubmitting its plan to resolve the remaining issues within 60 days. The next two items relate to annual reports and annual program budgets that program operators are required to submit to CalRecycle. Ultimed, an individual sharps manufacturer, submitted its annual program budget on March 31st, 2022. CalRecycle found Ultimed's annual budget incomplete on May 2nd, 2022, and Ultimed resubmitted its annual program budget on June 2nd of 22. Staff found Ultimed's complete annual program budget compliant and is recommending approval by the director. MedProject, a stewardship organization that represents over 200 covered entities in its drugs plan, submitted its 2021 annual report for covered drugs to CalRecycle on March 31st, 22. CalRecycle found MedProject's 2021 annual report for covered drugs incomplete on May 2nd, 2022, and MedProject resubmitted its 2021 annual report for covered drugs on June 1st, 22. CalRecycle found MedProject's complete 21 annual report for covered drugs compliant and is recommending approval by the director. That was a lot of numbers. Thank you for bearing with me. Staff's analysis for all four items are linked in the public notices on today's agenda. Please subscribe to CalRecycle's pharmaceutical and sharps listserv to receive the latest program updates.
Thanks, Zoe. As a reminder to those of you joining us virtually, submit a question or comment on an agenda item through the public comments portal. Just go to CalRecycle's homepage and click on the public meeting web banner at the top of our homepage. There you'll also find a link to today's agenda, the presentation slides, and our live webcast. We'll address those submissions during the public comment period a little later today. Meeting California's climate and waste reduction goals would not be possible without the hard work of our cities and counties. They're responsible for implementing the local programs to use less, recycle more, and meet state environmental production standards. CalRecycle is responsible for overseeing how well jurisdictions are implementing these programs. Staff does this by conducting site visits, analyzing documentation, and through reviews of jurisdictions' annual reports, which include disposal information and self-assessment of their programs. The department also has the authority to conduct anytime reviews to make sure cities and counties are in compliance with mandatory commercial recycling and mandatory commercial organics recycling requirements. We'll turn back to Deputy Director Zoe Heller with results of CalRecycle's latest compliance reviews.
Thanks, Maria. California law requires jurisdictions to implement mandatory commercial recycling and mandatory commercial organics recycling programs. Programs must ensure businesses that generate the statutory levels of waste have recycling service or a waiver. CalRecycle must review the local jurisdiction's actions to implement its programs for good faith effort based on express statutory factors, including, importantly, the number of businesses complying with AB 341 and 1826. All businesses generating statutory levels of waste must have service or a waiver. Given that organic waste disposal has more than doubled rather than halved since 2014, and the majority of California's waste originates from commercial sources, it is time for additional measures beyond monitoring and outreach, which have not proven sufficient to really move the needle and achieve compliance. CalRecycle is working with jurisdictions to step up their efforts to account for businesses that are by law required to have recycling services or a local waiver. CalRecycle's local assistance and market development staff have been working closely with jurisdictions to bring the remaining regulated commercial businesses and multifamily complexes into compliance so that we can achieve our statewide goals. For those jurisdictions that have regulated businesses not complying, CalRecycle is moving them farther down the path to enforcement. While most jurisdictions are implementing these programs to cut climate emissions and landfill disposal, CalRecycle identified program gaps for 18 Californian communities that are listed in this agenda item. They are implementing portions of the programs, but we're still seeing levels of noncompliance and a failure to demonstrate sufficient efforts to make sure that all regulated commercial businesses have recycling services or a waiver in place. You can find a full summary of identified program gaps linked to today's agenda, as well as the jurisdiction's plans to address those gaps. Steps include providing mandatory collection service or waivers, if applicable, to the remaining non-compliant regulated businesses, including multifamily complexes, implementing ordinances with enforcement provisions, and conducting outreach to non-compliant regulated businesses to assist them with proper recycling. CalRecycle staff will closely monitor these local programs over the next 6 months. If staff finds inadequate progress to implement the plan submitted to CalRecycle or address the gaps identified, then CalRecycle's Jurisdiction and Agency Compliance and Enforcement Branch, also known as JACE, will be notified that the jurisdiction should be prioritized for an enforcement evaluation. This item is delegated to me for signing. Finally, 2 items you can read more about by clicking in the public notices linked to today's agenda are: the Regional Waste Management Authority is requesting the approval of its amended joint powers agreement between the counties of Sutter, Yuba, and the cities of Live Oak, Marysville, Wheatland, and Yuba City. And also, the County of Sacramento has amended its countywide siting element by adding the Aerojet Waste Consolidated Unit. This is part of the county's requirement to describe areas that may be used as new disposal facilities. You can find these if you go to calrecycle.ca.gov, click on public meeting banner at the top of the page, and there's a direct link to today's agenda. Back over to Maria.
Thanks, Zoe. Moving on now to our pending solid waste and tire facilities permits. Check out this quick video to see how California facility standards help keep our communities safe.
Protecting the health of Californians and their land, food, water, and air is a big job. Local, state, and federal agencies play different roles to enforce public health and environmental safety standards. In California, solid waste local enforcement agencies process applications, issue, and enforce permits for solid waste facilities. These include landfills, transfer stations, compost facilities, or similar operations. CalRecycle must verify permits are consistent with state requirements. Permits can only address areas within the authority of local enforcement agencies and CalRecycle. Check out the link below for more detailed information. Emergency waivers allow temporary changes to solid waste permit requirements in response to local or state disasters. Local enforcement agencies may approve the waivers, which are good for up to 120 days and may be extended. CalRecycle must review approved waivers and can condition, limit, suspend, or terminate them. Check out the link for more detailed information. For waste tire facilities, CalRecycle processes applications, issues, and enforces waste tire permits. These include requirements to make sure tires are stored and processed in a way that reduces potential threats from fire and disease-carrying vectors like mosquitoes. Check out the link for more detailed information.
CalRecycle is committed to protecting public health and safety by ensuring California's waste regulations are followed. Paulina Lawrence joins us now with a statewide update on facility permits. Good morning, Paulina.
Good morning, Maria. Good morning, everyone. First off, I'd like to start with those facility permit actions that the department has concurred on. On July 28, 2022, the department concurred on a revised solid waste facilities permit for Edco Station, located at 8184 Commercial Street in La Mesa. This is in San Diego County. On August 1st, 2022, the department concurred on a modified solid waste facilities permit for California Waste Recovery Systems, located at 175 Enterprise Court in Sacramento County. And then also on August 1st, 2022, the department concurred on a new solid waste facilities permit for Mammoth Lakes Transfer Station, located at 59 Commerce Drive in Mammoth Lakes, which is in Mono County. Continuing on the agenda is Leo Recycle, located at 215 Leo Avenue in San Jose. This is in the city of San Jose. It's a new solid waste facilities permit. Action is needed September 4th, 2022. New to the agenda is California Waste Solutions North Gateway. This facility is located at 2308 Wake Avenue in Alameda County. This is a new solid waste facilities permit. Action is needed September 16th, 2022. Preliminary review of the permit package indicates the following proposed design parameters. The proposed facility will be a large volume transfer processing facility. The facility will be prohibited from receiving mixed municipal solid waste, bulky waste such as furniture or mattresses, pressure-treated lumber, waste tires, scrap metal, white good appliances, biosolids, green waste, food waste, or wood waste for any purpose, including processing or transfer to disposal. The permitted tonnage is 850 tons per day, and then the permitted traffic volume would be 308 vehicles per day. Lastly, the permitted acreage will be 14.38 acres. Next up is HZIU Compo Gas, SLL, Inc. This facility is located at 4300 Old Santa Fe Road in San Luis Obispo. This is in San Luis Obispo, county, which is actually the enforcement agency for that jurisdiction is CalRecycle. The new solid waste facilities permit is, the action is needed October 7th, 2022. Preliminary review of the permit package indicates the following proposed design parameters. First, they'd be up-tiering from a registration permit to a full solid waste facilities permit. The proposed facility will be a large volume in-vessel digestion facility that will receive green material, food material, fats, oils, and greases. Hours of operation will be Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. for receipt of waste, and then 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for processing. The permitted maximum tonnage, it would be 850 tons per week, and the total permitted area is 4.8 acres. Next up, we have Recology Sonoma Marin. This is located at 2543 Petaluma Boulevard in South. This is in Petaluma, and it's in Sonoma County. The new solid waste facilities, this is for a new solid waste facilities permit. Action date is been revised to October 8th, 2022. The preliminary review of the permit package indicates the following proposed design parameters. The proposed facility will be a large volume transfer processing facility with a permitted maximum tonnage of 220 tons per day, and then a permitted acreage of 5.4 acres. We have one more that is new and not on the agenda, and this is Athens Sun Valley Material Recovery Facility and Transfer Station. This facility is located at 11121 Pendleton Street in Sun Valley, and this is in the city of Los Angeles. This is a revised solid waste facilities permit. Action is needed October 14th, 2022. Preliminary review, the permit package indicates the following proposed changes. Change to the permitted hours of operation for material acceptance and refuse transfer from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. to Monday through Sunday to 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Sunday. The department did not receive any new emergency waivers since the last public meeting. Back to you, Maria.
Thanks so much, Paulina. For more information on any of today's agenda items, just go to CalRecycle's homepage and click on the public meeting web banner at the top of our website on the homepage for a link to the agenda and associated public notices. Now is the time for public comment. It looks as though we don't have any public comments from the public comment portal yet. So while those are being reviewed and we see if we have any, we can turn to the public comment portion in the gallery. If you have a public comment, please come to the microphone on either side.
Good morning, Nick Lapis with Californians Against Waste. I wanted to thank you for your work on the community composting grant program. I know it's not always easy to put a lot of effort into something that doesn't move huge tons, but the impact of that program has been tremendous, and the impact of the community composters has been tremendous. I also understand that you guys have been very receptive to their feedback, and they were very appreciative of your staff working with them. Again, these are folks who don't have lobbyists or government affairs teams, so appreciate that. There was a specific question about whether or not one entity can apply for multiple zones, and if so, if they would have to apply separately or if they could apply once for multiple zones. And I think specifically the entity that was created in response to the last grant program to manage the statewide program.
Nick, thank you for that question. And it's been a pleasure working with the various stakeholders to, make this program work both on our side and their side, which is always a challenge. I believe the answer to that is yes, but I want to get back to you with specifics to make sure that I capture it correctly. And so I will do that, but I believe that, one entity can apply for multiple regions. I believe they would have to submit those applications separately, but I will check in on that for you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Hi, good morning. Veronica Pardo, Resource Recovery Coalition of California. I actually have a question regarding the SB 1383 local assistance funding. So my first question is, how much was dispersed in the first round? And do you have a limitation on the timing of when you can make those disbursements? And if so, it appears that, the issue obviously is adopting local ordinances and whether or not communities have taken those steps. So if the money can't be dispersed, where would that money go, assuming there is a limitation of the time period for that? So those are my questions.
Thank you for that question, Veronica. So the roughly, I want to say, dispersed from that 60 million appropriation that we received last year is 54 million has gone out the door. We are down to the final 6 million. That so as you know, the money was appropriated per capita by jurisdiction, and so we kind of parsed out who would get what based on the timing of adoption of the local ordinance. We do have just a couple of local jurisdictions that do not have their local ordinance still adopted. However, the encumbrance period for that money, I believe, goes into next year, if not the following. So we have more time to encumber that money. We did not put a specific deadline on encumbrance for the department on the money, but we did put deadlines on the jurisdictions in order for the first two rounds. So we do have a period of time, and the expectation from the legislature is that that goes back to local jurisdictions, but we're having conversations about those jurisdictions that have not met that base threshold, and whether or not when they will get that base threshold met. But our expectation is to get that back to local jurisdictions.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Okay, great.
Good morning, Evan Edgar Associates on behalf of the California Compost Coalition. The number one thing in the landfill is food waste, and you guys have been doing a great job with all the community grants today, with all the infrastructure grants, edible food recovery programs, and it's a great program, and a lot of focus been on food waste, as it should be. The number two thing in the waste stream is wood waste, and wood waste is quite the amount right after food waste, and there's really no plan on that right now. Last month, you had a report on SB 498, and it's called the annual report. It's 4 slides, and I wondered if there's any more information going to go along with that slide, because we really don't have much of a future on wood waste in California, the urban wood waste. You can call me the urban cowboy, even though I do work with ag composting, I work with forest sector. There's a lot of urban forest and ag waste out there. In the forest sector, there's a lot of money the governor's putting towards fire safety. So we have a flood of forest sector waste coming on the market. With regards to the agriculture waste, San Joaquin Valley APCD phased out ag burning in the Central Valley for the next 5 years, and there's $180 million there to do something about it. So there's a lot of urban wood waste out there that's being crowded out by the forest and ag sector, and we've seen that in the trend analysis in the annual report for SB 498. The urban sector lost 1 million tons of capacity over the last 5 years due to the curtailing of bioenergy in the 1980s fluidized bed technology, but coupled with the 80% feedstock requirement for forest sector. So we're at 1 million tons right now. Plus, under SB 1383, there'd be a new 3.9 million tons coming on the market by 2025. So we have more supply coming on the market. We lost 1 million tons in bioenergy being crowded out by urban and ag. So for the last 3 years, what we try to do, California Compost Coalition, was try to make sense out of that. We want to do an organic waste scoping plan. We looked for your support. We didn't get it. It was like $1 million due to the study, $800,000 a year to maintain it. So we can back down from that. 3 strikes and I'm out. But someplace, sometime, California needs to look at all the urban biomass and what to do with it in the future, because it's competing against each one another and the urban sector is losing out with regards to wood waste. But you do have a responsibility under current statute to do a non-yard wood waste report, and you have a statutory responsibility to do a market development plan today. You don't need statutory requirement for it because you already have it. So last year, I went through this exercise of asking, what's the future for urban wood waste for CalRecycle by 2030, or where are we going? Since that time, with the scoping plan, we realized that bioenergy being crowded out as part of the scoping plan, they don't want anything combustion. So what hope we had was to move a lot of this urban biomass into new biomass, not the online biomass from the 80s, but biomass gasification with this community scale, 3 megawatt. We make biochar, carbon neutral. We're doing it in forest, ag, and urban sector under the Biomat program. So we hope to do more of that, but the signals from the CARB scoping plan is that no more of that. So we don't really have a place to take urban wood waste after 2030 if you follow the CARB scoping plan. So we're crowded out there. So the question to CalRecycle and your current statutory authority for non-yard wood waste report that should be done annually, coupled with your market development plan that needs to be updated routinely, what is a plan for urban wood waste for CalRecycle today, 2025, when you got 3.9 more million tons, and by 2030? And last year I asked a question and didn't go anywhere. We kind of try to be accessible. I try to be transparent. And I try to be inclusionary with everybody on trying to, with urban and ag and forest waste sector, but I got nothing back last year. Hopefully this year we can have another exercise on this. But the sad part about it is a scoping plan will be adopted without bioenergy. What do we do with all this urban wood waste? Local government procurement under 1383 can take care of some of that. Not that much. On a blend portfolio, maybe we get back 1 million tons a year. But what about the 3.9 million tons? And under some of your plans, they have chipping and grinding as a market. And chipping and grinding is not a market. It's a processing. Once you chip and grind, you have all this mulch you got to move someplace. So the fallacy that everything's going to chipping and grinding is not the market. It's making a product that moves to another market. So once again, I'm open to work with Dan Brown and your team to have the annual discussion about the future of biomass, and it's more dire than before. We got more competition from forest and ag. We got less resources and less policy. Where do we go from here? Basically, it's a knock on wood, and wood is the number 2 in the waste stream. It deserves more attention. Thank you.
Mr. Edgar, thank you so much for your comments. I think what you've highlighted for us is that the evolution of the organics waste recycling program is very dynamic, and it will continue to be dynamic well past 2030, but that in these early stages that we are looking at that evolution and how our organic waste stream will be changing and what we need to address it. So I really very much appreciate your comments, and you're looking forward to what is going to happen with the woody organic waste. I would also say that our hope is that this is not only a partnership here between the Air Resources Board and CalRecycle, and furthermore, several entities within the Natural Resources Agency, but also our local partners. From our perspective, and I know the Air Board's perspective, and I think the legislature's perspective, that we need to be looking for solutions that do not create new environmental harms, and that is one of the issues with biomass traditionally in terms of combustion. So we look forward to the ongoing conversation, and I really appreciate you raising that today as we are looking towards the implementation, next year's implementation of 1383. As you know, and stated in your comments, our focus on the early stages of 1383 and 1826 has been obviously the food waste, and that being the bulk of what we're looking at. But you're right, we do need to look forward to wood waste, and appreciate your comments.
And to be clear on this, new technology is clean technology. Understand in the past, own biomass with a fluidized bed in the Central Valley, a lot of situations there, and every year they keep that going. But I'm talking about new biomass, under 3 megawatt, gasification, can get permits. We're having a grand opening up in North Fork, Madera County on a 2 megawatt opening up. I just got another 2 megawatt with the city of San Rafael approved. I got 3 megawatt up in Wiselyville with forest sector waste. I got another ag waste. So I'm around doing a lot of work in the field to get these entitled. But the signals, and this is not impact for, it's not an EJAC issue, environmental justice issue. New biomass is community scale. It stays in the community, 100% renewable, makes a biochar that be sequestered for 1,000 years. I'm trying to make it a carbon negative energy source by taking in the life cycle of biochar into the soils. So I don't have any type of misinformation here that what I'm promoting is new biomass that can get air permits under 10 tons a year of NOx. But it is a form of combustion when you combust the syngas. So when you have a high temperature, you have the syngas that goes through a genset. So there's a combustion, and that point of combustion, that means in a scoping plan, it's no good. And they're hiding, I don't know if they're not really hiding behind environmental justice because it's not there for this new technology at small scale, but it is perceived as a whole by the environmental community that anything combustion is bad. And we're gasification, and it's new biomass. And that should have a market, but I would hope that CalRecycle would weigh in on a scoping plan, such as for RNG, to have a feature for RNG, which we don't have. No feature for biomethane for on-site, no feature for biomass. We're just being crowded out. We have nowhere to go. And I thought it was the role of CalRecycle to carve out that role with us in order to move the wood waste forward into a new technology. Haven't seen it yet. If anything, the California Energy Commission curtailed their grant. We used to get $6 million a facility, up to $25 million a year to do this. That stopped 2 years ago due to combustion. And there's no real good environmental justice answer on why this new technology at small scale in your community making biochar is damning. If anything, it should be promoted. I was looking for CalRecycle to help promote that.
Thank you for the comment.
Next, we have public comments that have been submitted through our public comments portal. The first comment today is from Mervis Reisig from the Story of Stuff, and it's regarding the beverage container recycling program. Ever since participating in the Story of Stuff recycling take-back project, I've been noticing the lack of options more and more. It would be great if it was easy as taking all my recyclables back to the store where I bought the products. I can read this one. So thank you so much for your comments. CalRecycle is also concerned with consumer access and understands recycling centers are having a difficult time, which is why we proposed the budget change proposal to invest $300 million in the program with an emphasis on consumer redemption access. We're having continuing conversations with the legislature to have these concerns addressed. As a reminder, on our website, calrecycle.ca.gov/bevcontainer, there is a database for both RC and redemption retailers near you. Should you find that a retailer listed on the site is not redeeming, please use the complaint link on the site so we may take appropriate investigations and enforcement if necessary. Our next comment is from Catherine Bierce. And she asks, what are you doing to improve, enforce, and increase CRV redemption at grocery stores? Convenience is essential to a functioning bottle bill, and return to retail is one of the most convenient ways for me to return bottles and cans. If we don't recycle plastic properly, it becomes trash. Mixing plastic bottles and cans with other recycling leads to downcycling, creating less valuable products. Unless we are able to recycle in single stream formats like returning cans and bottles to the grocery store, we're creating more trash. Companies like Walmart should not be able to pay $100 a day to get out of their responsibility to take back bottles and cans. We need to end that loophole. I met with Assemblymember Wicks about this as well. Let's fix recycling in California. I don't know if you want to take that or Amy.
Hi, good morning. Amy Cameron, Assistant Director of the Beverage Container Recycling Program. Thank you for your comments and your concerns and Maria's previous response about our budget change proposal and investing $300 million into the program with an emphasis on consumer redemption access is also applicable to your comment. Thank you for participating.
Thanks.
Do we want to perhaps go through and maybe summarize all of those related to the beverage container recycling program, or highlight the key points, and then I can make a statement about where we are on that process?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question's from Kathy Engler, and the comment basically says, thanks for working on the bottle bill, and that she is not able to return CRVs to any retailer in the Truckee area. Then the next one is also from Kathy Engler, and it looks like it's just please close the loophole about retailers not redeeming. And then additionally, Gia Moore commented, she's from giamore.com, and she references SB 1013 and that it would include wine and spirits in the bottle bill. And she asks, how do we expect to handle the huge capacity for bottle and can take back? And that she says that she has been unable to find a place where she can redeem her bottles and cans. And then additionally, Diane DeTuris has asked again to please enforce CRV redemption at grocery stores, and that we need places to sell CRV to take back their containers. And the next question, let's see, is this one on BCRP? There's another one on BCR, on the beverage container program, that is Savannah Huskins from Stanford IGEM. What are the biggest challenges in recycling beverage containers and recycling plants? And it looks like that's everything on the bottle bill.
So I want to thank everyone for their comments and outreach on the beverage container recycling program. As we know, this is one of California's earliest and most successful recycling programs that was really, from its inception, really leading the nation in recycling. But over the last few years, we have really seen a decline in access to recycling facilities and ability for consumers to redeem their beverage containers. That being said, we are still recycling roughly, I was going to say over, but I'll go with roughly 70% of the beverage containers sold in the state of California, which is an incredible, incredible number of beverage containers, nearly 500 billion containers since the inception of this program, which is really, really, really important to highlight that this is a very successful program. However, that being said, the lack of access for redemption centers and for consumers to understand how to easily access the system is really a concern for both CalRecycle. It is a concern for the governor, and it is a concern for the legislature. So over the last couple of months, we have been working with the legislature on a budget proposal to expend roughly $300+ to increase access for consumers to this program. And we look forward to concluding those discussions with the legislature before the end of session, with those expenditures really being primarily focused on increasing access and strengthening the recycling infrastructure. So we look forward to coming back in September and talking about what has passed in the legislature and in the budget. And so stay tuned for the September meeting.
And I just wanted to clarify what Rachel said, where it's 300 million is in the budget change proposal. What did I say? Just 300, but that's okay. Oh. 300 plus. So the next question comes from Ben Miller at the Salvation Army Bell Shelter, and it's related to composting. I want to make our homeless shelter a zero waste facility, and a composting program will be a big part of that goal. I would like to know if there is a specific program, a specific person that I can work with during the application phase of the grant application. And that question is for Zoe.
Ben, thanks so much for your question, and also for what you're looking to do. It's awesome, and we want to help. The community composting grants are one grantee per region to create community compost sites within their region. So individual projects will have to work with that grantee who's been awarded in the region to get that project off the ground. But with that said, our team would certainly be happy to talk to you and explore other options, also to talk to you a little bit more about the program to better understand where you're located. So please feel free to reach out to me directly and we can get a call scheduled.
Thank you, Zoe. The next question is from Basil Cantu, and that is from the Corona organization. And Basil had a question regarding our wholesale edible food recovery customers. There were some customers that were categorized as wholesale food generators, but after research and a completed site visit, waste audit, it was found that some consumers do not produce any food waste at their location. We were wondering if there is an exemption process for these customers, or do we still have to have them have a contract with a food bank?
Yeah, thank you, Basil. That's a very good question, and one that we want to make sure that we're providing assistance and clarity on. So there isn't an exemption that's provided, but what we recommend is working with local governments to demonstrate that there is no excess edible food for recovery at these facilities. If there's no generation of excess edible food, they'll not be required to have a contract written agreement with a food recovery organization. But if that changes over time and excess edible food is generated, then they will need to have a contract or written agreement in place and records showing amounts received. So this is kind of a nuanced issue, and it's probably best if we connect directly on this. I can connect you with our team that is working with jurisdictions to provide assistance on this very issue. So thank you for your question.
The next question is from Anita Yangabaran, and that's from the Department of Public Works. It's related to application due dates. Anita asks, could you please provide the due dates for the below programs? Greenhouse gas reduction loan program application. The due date is continuous recycling market development loan program application due date, which is continuous. So just to clarify, there is no due date. They are accepted on a continuous basis.
Yeah, that's correct, Maria. And Anita, we would be happy to talk to you about the projects that you have in mind. Our loans staff and our loans team is really wanting to assist anyone who's interested in coming in for these various loans. So feel free to reach out if you have specific questions or project ideas that you'd like to discuss with us.
Thank you, Zoe. And the next question is from Manuel Medrano from the City of Chula Vista Environmental Services Division. Regarding the new Office of Innovation, could you please provide an update on the development of the CalRecycle's new Office of Innovation?
We appreciate that question. We are currently in the process of developing the organizational chart for that office, and hopefully we'll have an announcement soon on standing up that office.
And the final comment comes from Nick at Californians Against Waste regarding community composting. And
he made his comment.
Oh, he did. I'm sorry.
And just, I know he's not in the room right now, but just this was a confirmation that one applicant can apply for multiple regions, but they would have to submit an individual application for each region for budgeting purposes and reporting purposes. More clarity will come with the once the application is released.
Wonderful. So that's all the questions that we have at this time. So thanks to everyone who participated in today's public meeting. We hope you enjoyed the new format designed to make communication as accessible, inclusive, and relevant as possible. We welcome your feedback through the public comment portal. Have a great rest of your morning and week. We'll see you next month.